Reporting there. A family battling COVID-19 was given approval to land in Adelaide last week on a privately funded flight. It was the first Medivac of its kind to enter South Australia since the pandemic began. And while SA Health says it's a common practice interstate, those advocating for people stranded with the virus overseas say it's a double standard. Patrick Martin reports.
Tom's Court Hotel, a temporary home for international arrivals who test positive to COVID-19. Its residents now include a man, woman and child who unusually were admitted to Australia having tested positive to the Delta variant of the virus overseas. The couple and their young child left from somewhere in Indonesia aboard a privately chartered Medivac flight and arrived in Adelaide on June 22. According to the South Australian Government, it was a medical transfer arranged between different hospitals.
This actually happens on a fairly regular basis in the eastern states such as Queensland and New South Wales because of course they're a little bit closer to many of those regions.
But it's the first flight of this type to arrive in South Australia since the pandemic began and was in addition to the state's arrival cap. It comes as other states push the Commonwealth to tighten caps on international arrivals and as Australians in India who test positive to the virus are banned from flying home.
It's quite unfair that some people are able to make it because they have money, and even if they're COVID positive, they can fly in and government gives them permissions.
It's really not about wealth.
The government insists this case is standard practice.
This is a pre-existing way of retrieving people who are working close to Australia. And of course, any of those exemptions for somebody to come into Australia are given by the Commonwealth.
An Australian Border Force spokesperson said the transfer of Australian citizens followed protocol and it worked with South Australian authorities who managed quarantine arrangements. The flight crew that returned the family to Adelaide spent one night in a Medi hotel before returning overseas after testing negative to the virus. Patrick Martin, ABC News, Adelaide.